Rain hammered the black umbrellas, a relentless drumbeat over the hushed whispers of the mourners. Jamie Carter, barely 26, stood frozen at the edge of his husband's grave, the weight of a folded American flag crushing his chest. They called him a gold digger, their venomous words slicing through the downpour. But he held his ground, eyes locked on the casket that held the only man who ever saw him for who he was. The cemetery in upstate New York was a sea of gray sky, gray stones, gray faces. The crowd, a mix of Daniel's family and old business associates, stood in tight clusters, their tailored suits and polished shoes a stark contrast to Jamie's worn jacket and mud-streaked boots. He could feel their stares, sharp as knives, branding him an outsider, a leech, a nobody who'd seduced a wealthy man for his fortune. Daniel Carter, 48, had been a titan in the tech world, a man whose name opened doors and silenced rooms. And Jamie, just a barista with dreams too big for his paycheck. Or so they thought. Gold digger, someone muttered, loud enough to carry. Jamie's jaw tightened, but he didn't turn. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Beside him, Daniel's best friend, Marcus, a broad-shouldered man with a face carved by years of loyalty, squeezed his arm. "Don't listen to them, kid," Marcus whispered. "They don't know what you two had." What they had was a love that burned brighter than the world's judgment. It started 3 years ago in a tiny Brooklyn cafe, where Jamie's nervous smile caught Daniel's eye over a steaming latte. Daniel, older, wiser, and quietly searching for something real, found it in Jamie's unpolished honesty. Their first date was a walk through Central Park, where Daniel laughed louder than he had in years, and Jamie forgot what it felt like to be invisible. They built a life together, not in Daniel's sprawling Manhattan penthouse, but in quiet moments cooking dinners, arguing over old movies, dreaming of a future where they could just be. But the world wasn't kind to a love that didn't fit its mold. Daniel's family, his sister Claire, a lawyer with a tongue like a whip, and his brother-in-law Robert, a financier who measured worth in dollars, never accepted Jamie. To them, he was a threat, a stain on the Carter legacy. When Daniel proposed, Claire called it a midlife crisis. When they married in a small ceremony last summer, Robert didn't even show. And now, at Daniel's funeral, their disdain was a living thing, coiling around Jamie like smoke. The priest's voice droned on, but Jamie barely heard it. His mind was lost in the night Daniel collapsed, clutching his chest in their kitchen. His last words a gasp. "I love you, Jamie." Heart attack, the doctors said. Too sudden, too final. Jamie had held him until the paramedics arrived, but it was too late. Now, standing here, he felt Daniel slipping further away with every raindrop. As the casket lowered, Claire stepped forward, her heels sinking into the mud. "This is a family matter now," she said, her voice cold as the rain. "You've had your time, James. Leave." The crowd stirred, some nodding, others looking away. Jamie's heart pounded, but he lifted his chin. "I was his family," he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "He chose me." Claire's lips curled. "Chose you? For what?" "His money." A few gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus stepped closer, but Jamie held up a hand. "He didn't need protecting. Not today." "You don't know anything about us," Jamie said, his voice rising. "But you will." The will reading was set for the next day, in a sleek Manhattan law office that reeked of old money. Jamie hadn't slept, his eyes red from grief and the weight of what was coming. He knew Daniel had planned something. His husband was meticulous, always 3 steps ahead. But Jamie didn't care about the money. He never had. All he wanted was to honor Daniel's memory, to prove their love was real. The office was packed when he arrived. Claire and Robert sat at the front, their faces smug, certain they'd inherit the empire. Daniel's cousins, distant relatives, and a few loyal employees filled the chairs, their curiosity palpable. Jamie took a seat in the back, Marcus at his side, ignoring the whispers that followed him. The lawyer, a wiry man named Ellison, adjusted his glasses and began. Daniel Carter's last will and testament is unconventional, he said, his tone measured. But it is airtight, notarized, and witnessed. Let's begin. Jamie's heart thudded as Ellison read the opening lines. Daniel's voice seemed to echo in the words, steady and deliberate, as if he were in the room. The first bequests were small charities, employees, a trust for Marcus. Then Ellison paused, his eyes flicking to Jamie. To my husband, James Carter, he read, I leave the entirety of my estate, including all properties, investments, and controlling shares of Carter Tech, valued at approximately $1.2 billion. The room froze. Claire's pen clattered to the floor. Robert's face went white. Jamie felt the air leave his lungs, not because of the money, but because of what it meant. Daniel had trusted him, believed in him, loved him enough to hand him everything. That's impossible, Claire snapped. Standing. He's a nobody. This is fraud. Ellison raised a hand. There's more. He produced a sealed envelope. Daniel's handwriting scrawled across it, for Jamie, to be read aloud. The room held its breath as he broke the seal. My love, Ellison read. They'll call you names, question your worth, but they don't know you. You gave me a life worth living. This is my final gift. Carry our truth forward. Tears burned Jamie's eyes. The room blurred, but he felt Marcus's hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Claire's face twisted, her voice a hiss. You manipulated him, she said. You'll never run Carter Tech. You're nothing. Jamie stood, his grief igniting into something fiercer. I'm his husband, he said, and I'll prove you wrong. The boardroom at Carter Tech's headquarters was a cathedral of glass and steel, its long table a battlefield where Jamie now stood alone. He was out of place in his second-hand blazer, surrounded by executives in tailored suits, their eyes dissecting him like a specimen. Claire had wasted no time rallying the board, her lawyer's instincts sharp as she painted Jamie as an unfit heir, a naive boy who'd stumbled into a fortune he couldn't possibly manage. James, Claire said, her voice dripping with condescension. You have no experience, no credentials. Step aside before you ruin Daniel's legacy. The board murmured, some nodding, others avoiding Jamie's gaze. Robert leaned back in his chair, smirking, as if the outcome was already decided. Jamie's hands shook, but he gripped the edge of the table, anchoring himself. Daniel built this company on vision, not just credentials, he said. He believed in me. That's enough. A scoff echoed from the far end of the table. Belief doesn't run a billion-dollar company, said Evelyn, a senior board member with steel gray hair and a reputation for ruthlessness. You're a barista, not a CEO. The words stung, but Jamie had prepared for this. Late last night, he'd found a letter tucked into Daniel's desk, written in his husband's precise handwriting. It outlined a plan of vision for Carter Tech's future, one Daniel had shared with Jamie during late-night talks. It was bold, risky, and exactly what the company needed to stay ahead in a cutthroat industry. Jamie had memorized every word. I'm not here to play CEO, Jamie said, his voice steady. I'm here to honor Daniel's vision. He left me notes, a roadmap for Carter Tech's next decade sustainable tech, community outreach, Innovation that doesn't forget the people it serves. He pulled the letter from his pocket, holding it up. This is what he wanted. I'm not asking for your trust. I'm asking for a chance to prove it. The room fell silent. Even Claire's sharp retort caught in her throat. Marcus, standing by the door, gave Jamie a nod, his eyes gleaming with pride. But Evelyn wasn't swayed. Pretty words, she said. But we need results, not promises. You have 1 month to present a viable plan, or we vote you out. 1 month. It was a gauntlet thrown at his feet, but Jamie accepted it. He had no choice. Walking out of the boardroom, he felt the weight of every doubt, every whisper, but also the spark of Daniel's faith in him. He wouldn't let it die. Back at the penthouse, Jamie pored over Daniel's notes, the pages worn from his touch. The apartment felt cavernous without Daniel's laughter, his steady presence. Jamie traced the handwriting, each loop and curve a reminder of their late-night dreams. Daniel had believed in a world where technology served humanity, not just profit. Jamie would fight for that. His phone buzzed a text from Marcus. You've got this, kid. Don't let the vultures win. Jamie smiled faintly, but the doubt crept in. He wasn't Daniel. He didn't have the charm, the experience, the gravitas. What if Claire was right? The next morning, Jamie met with Sarah, Carter Tech's head of R&D and one of the few who didn't look at him like he was an imposter. A woman in her 30s with a quick smile and sharper mind. She'd been Daniel's confidant in the company. He talked about you all the time, she said over coffee in her cluttered office. Said you had a heart bigger than his bank account. Jamie blushed, stirring his coffee. I don't know how to do this, Sarah. I'm not him. No one expects you to be, she said. But you've got something he trusted. That's not nothing. She slid a tablet across the table, displaying a prototype for a solar-powered device Daniel had championed. Affordable, accessible, meant for underserved communities. This was his baby, she said. If you want to prove yourself, start here. The project was ambitious, unfinished, and exactly the kind of thing Claire would dismiss as unprofitable. But Jamie saw its potential, not just for the company, but for the people it could help. He spent days diving into the details, meeting engineers, crunching numbers, learning the language of a world he'd never been part of. Sleepless nights blurred into dawn, but every step felt like a conversation with Daniel, a way to keep him close. Claire, meanwhile, wasn't idle. She dug into Jamie's past, searching for dirt, his high school dropout record, his string of odd jobs, anything to discredit him. She leaked whispers to the press, painting him as a schemer who'd trapped a dying man. The headlines stung, Gold Digger Inherits Tech Empire. Jamie tried to ignore them, but each one chipped away at his resolve. One night, alone in the penthouse, he found a photo of him and Daniel at Coney Island, laughing under neon lights. The memory hit like a wave, Daniel's hand in his, the world fading away. Jamie pressed the photo to his chest, tears falling. I'm trying, Dan, he whispered. I hope I'm enough. The board meeting loomed, and Jamie knew it was his one shot. He wasn't just fighting for Carter Tech, was fighting for their love, their truth, against a world that wanted to erase it. He wouldn't let them win. The boardroom felt like a courtroom, every chair occupied by judges ready to deliver a verdict. Jamie stood at the head of the table, his heart racing as he faced the sea of skeptical faces. Claire sat front and center, her arms crossed, a predator waiting for him to falter. But Jamie had Daniel's notes, Sarah's support, and a fire in his chest that refused to go out. He launched into his presentation, projecting Daniel's solar device prototype on the screen. This is the future of Carter Tech, he said. his voice clear despite the knot in his throat. A device that brings clean energy to communities that need it most affordable. Scalable. Human. He outlined the specs. The cost projections. The impact, schools powered in rural areas. Clinics lit up in crises. The room was quiet. But he could feel the shift curiosity. Not dismissal. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Ambitious, she said. But the margins are thin. Why prioritize this over proven revenue streams? Because it's what Daniel wanted. Jamie said. Profit matters. But so do people. This is how we lead. Not just compete. He clicked to the next slide, showing a timeline he and Sarah had built. It was tight. Risky. But feasible. Murmurs rippled through the room, some impressed. Others unconvinced. Claire stood, her voice cutting through. This is a fantasy, she said. You're gambling Daniel's legacy on a pipe dream. Step down, James, before you drag us all down with you. The room tensed, but Jamie didn't flinch. You've spent weeks calling me a gold digger, he said, meeting her gaze. But I'm not here for the money. I'm here because Daniel believed in a better world. And I won't let you bury that with him. His words hung in the air, raw and unyielding. Marcus, in the back, gave a small nod, his eyes shining. Evelyn leaned forward. You've got guts, she said. But guts don't pay the bills. We'll review your proposal. Don't expect miracles. The meeting ended with no clear win. But Jamie felt a spark of hope. He'd held his own, planted a seed. Sarah caught him in the hall, grinning. You killed it, she said. They're rattled. Keep going. But Claire wasn't done. That night, a gossip column dropped a bombshell. An anonymous source, clearly Claire, claimed Jamie had a criminal record, a petty theft charge from his teens. The story spread like wildfire, painting him as a con artist. Social media erupted. Hashtags like Gold Digger Jamie trending. Jamie's phone buzzed with hate messages, each one a dagger to his heart. He retreated to the penthouse, the walls closing in. Marcus came over, bringing pizza and his no-nonsense attitude. They're scared, he said, cracking open a beer. Claire's throwing mud because she knows you're a threat. Don't let it break you. It's not just her, Jamie said, his voice hollow. It's everyone. They think I'm nothing without him. Marcus leaned forward, his gaze fierce. You were never nothing. Daniel saw it. And so do I. You're fighting for him. But you're also fighting for you. Don't forget that. The next day, Jamie met with a PR consultant Sarah recommended. A sharp woman named Lena who'd navigated corporate scandals before. We flipped the narrative, Lena said, pacing her office. You tell your story, your love, your truth. People connect with that, not Claire's lies. Jamie hesitated. Opening up meant exposing his heart to a world that had already judged him. But Lena was writhe, couldn't hide forever. They crafted a statement. Simple and honest. I love Daniel Carter with everything I am. His legacy isn't just a company. It's a vision for a better world. I'm here to fight for it. Not for myself, but for him. The statement went viral. Not for its polish, but for its rawness. Support poured in tweets from strangers. Letters from Daniel's old colleagues. Even a few board members who'd been silent. But Claire doubled down, filing a legal challenge to the will, claiming undue influence. The lawsuit was a long shot, but it dragged Jamie's name through the mud again. As the legal battle loomed, Jamie threw himself into the solar project. He and Sarah worked late, refining designs, securing suppliers, building a pitch that could withstand Claire's attacks. Every step forward felt like a defiance, a way to keep Daniel's spirit alive. But the pressure was relentless, board deadlines. Media scrutiny. The constant ache of grief. One night, exhausted, Jamie found a box in Daniel's closet, filled with letters they'd written to each other early in their relationship. One. From Daniel. Read, "You make me believe in forever. Jamie. Don't let them dim your light." Tears fell as Jamie clutched the letter. A lifeline in the storm. He wouldn't give up. Not now. Not ever. The courtroom was a cold, sterile place, its oak benches and high ceilings amplifying every whisper. Jamie sat beside his lawyer, a pro bono advocate named Tom who'd taken his case after reading his statement. Across the aisle, Claire and her legal team radiated confidence, their binders stuffed with documents meant to bury him. The lawsuit challenged Daniel's mental capacity, claiming Jamie had coerced him into rewriting the will. It was a lie, but lies could be powerful. The judge, a stern woman with gray curls, called the room to order. Claire's lawyer opened with a barrage of financial records, Jamie's past, even a doctored email suggesting he'd pressured Daniel. Jamie's stomach churned, but Tom leaned over. "They're reaching," he whispered. "We've got truth on our side." When it was Jamie's turn, he took the stand, his hands clammy. The room felt like it was closing in. But he thought of Daniel, of their late-night talks, their shared dreams. "I didn't ask for the money," he said, his voice steady. "I asked for him. Daniel was my home, not his bank account." He told their story, the cafe, the walks, the quiet nights when Daniel taught him to dream bigger. He spoke of the will, not as a grab for power, but as Daniel's final act of trust. "He knew I'd fight for what he believed in," Jamie said. "That's why he chose me." Claire's lawyer cross-examined, twisting his words, painting him as opportunistic. "You were a barista," he sneered. "How convenient you married a billionaire." The gallery murmured, but Jamie held his ground. "I was a barista," he said, "and Daniel loved me for it, not despite it. He saw me. Can you say the same for how you treated him?" The room stilled. Even the judge leaned forward, her expression unreadable. Tom followed with evidence: Daniel's medical records, showing he was lucid when the will was signed, and testimonies from Marcus and Sarah about their love. The hearing ended without a ruling, but Jamie felt a weight lift. He'd spoken his truth. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Lena was ready, guiding Jamie through a prepared statement. "This isn't about money," he said to the cameras. "It's about love, and I won't let anyone rewrite ours." The clip aired that night, sparking a wave of support online. Team Jamie trended, and strangers shared stories of their own struggles for acceptance. Jamie read them in the penthouse, tears mixing with a flicker of hope. But the fight wasn't over. Claire's team filed motions, delaying the solar project's approval. The board grew restless, Evelyn warning that time was running out. Jamie doubled his efforts, meeting with community leaders to pitch the device, securing a pilot program in a rural New York town. The locals, skeptical at first, warmed to his sincerity, his lack of polish a strange kind of strength. Sarah became his anchor, her optimism infectious. One evening, as they reviewed data in her office, she said, "You're not just fighting for Daniel. You're fighting for everyone who's been told they don't belong." Her words hit hard, reframing his battle. This wasn't just about him, it was about every kid like him. Dismissed, invisible, but still dreaming. Claire's next move was personal. She contacted Jamie's estranged mother, a woman he hadn't seen since he came out at 17. She appeared on a talk show, tearfully claiming Jamie had abandoned her for money. The betrayal cut deep. But Marcus was there, his gruff voice steady. "Family isn't blood," he said. "It's who shows up. We're your family now." Jamie threw himself back into work, channeling the pain. The pilot program launched, and early results were promising. Schools powered, families grateful. The board took notice, but Claire's lawsuit still loomed, a shadow over every step. Jamie found solace in Daniel's letters, reading them nightly, each one a reminder of why he fought. One letter, tucked in the back of the box, stopped him cold. It was dated a week before Daniel's death. If they try to break you, Jamie, remember, you're stronger than their lies. You're my heart. And that's enough. Jamie clutched it, his resolve hardening. The court would rule soon. But win or lose, he'd keep fighting for Daniel, for himself, for the world they dreamed of together. The courtroom ruling came on a crisp October morning, the kind Daniel would have loved for a walk in the park. Jamie sat rigid, his hands clasped, as the judge's voice cut through the tension. The will of Daniel Carter is upheld, she said. No evidence supports claims of undue influence. Claire's face crumpled, her carefully built case collapsing. Jamie exhaled, relief flooding him. But the victory felt hollow without Daniel to share it. The judge continued, dismissing Claire's motions and affirming Jamie's inheritance. The gallery buzzed, reporters scribbling furiously. Tom clapped Jamie's shoulder, whispering, "You did it." But Jamie knew this was just one battle. The war for Carter Tech, for Daniel's vision, for his own place in a world that doubted him was far from over. Outside, the media frenzy was relentless. Jamie, with Lena's coaching, kept it brief. This is for Daniel. I'll make him proud. The words felt inadequate, but they resonated, trending online alongside stories of the solar project's early success. Support grew, but so did the pressure. The board expected results. And Claire, though defeated in court, wasn't done fighting. Back at Carter Tech, Jamie threw himself into the solar project, now greenlit for a wider rollout. He and Sarah traveled to rural communities, meeting families who'd benefit, their gratitude a balm for his grief. One evening, a teacher in a small town hugged him, tears in her eyes. "This means our kids can learn after dark," she said. Jamie thought of Daniel, of how he'd smile at that, and felt him closer than ever. But Claire's shadow lingered. She shifted tactics, lobbying board members, spreading doubts about Jamie's leadership. Evelyn called him in, her tone clipped. "The pilot's promising," she said, "but we need scale, revenue, stability. You're running out of time to prove you're more than a figurehead." Jamie nodded, swallowing the sting. He wasn't a figurehead, was Daniel's partner, his heir, his heart. That night, he found a USB drive in Daniel's desk, labeled for Jamie. It held a video, recorded months before Daniel's death. In it, Daniel sat in their kitchen, his smile warm but tired. "If you're watching this," he said, "I'm gone. And you're fighting. Don't stop. Love. You're not just carrying my dreams, you're building your own." The video broke Jamie open, but it also lit a fire. He spent days refining the solar project's pitch, pulling all-nighters with Sarah and the team. They secured a major grant, a game-changer that silenced some board skeptics. But Claire struck again, leaking internal emails that questioned Jamie's decisions, framing him as erratic. The board called an emergency meeting, and Jamie knew this was his last stand. He walked in with Sarah and Marcus, armed with data, testimonials, and Daniel's video. "This isn't about me," he told the board, his voice steady. "It's about what Carter Tech can do for the world. Daniel saw that, and I'm asking you to see it too." He played the video, Daniel's voice filling the room, raw and real. Board members shifted, some tearing up, others looking away. Evelyn's face softened, just for a moment. Claire stood, her voice sharp. Sentiment doesn't run a company, she said. He's in over his head. But this time, the room didn't echo her. A younger board member, Raj, spoke up. The numbers are solid, he said. The pilot's working. Give him a chance. The vote was close, but Jamie kept his role. Not a triumph, but a lifeline. He left the meeting drained but determined. Marcus and Sarah flanking him like soldiers. You're doing it, Sarah said, grinning. Daniel would be losing his mind right now. That night, Jamie sat on their balcony, the city glittering below. He held Daniel's wedding ring, kept on a chain around his neck, and whispered, I'm trying. Dan, I hope you're watching. The stars above felt like an answer. Quiet but sure. The solar project's rollout gained momentum, its success rippling beyond Carter Tech's walls. News outlets covered the story, not just as a business win, but as a human once schools lit. Communities empowered. Jamie's name tied to hope instead of scandal. He was no longer just the gold digger. He was Daniel's husband, carrying a torch most hadn't expected him to hold. But the victories were hard-won. Jamie worked grueling hours, balancing board demands, media scrutiny, and his own grief. Claire, though sidelined, hadn't vanished. She shifted to quieter tactics, whispering doubts to investors, planting stories that questioned Jamie's long-term vision. The pressure was a constant hum, but Jamie leaned on his ally Sarah's brilliance, Marcus's loyalty, Lena's savvy. One afternoon, Sarah burst into his office, eyes wide. We got an invite, she said, waving a letter. It was from a major tech conference in San Francisco, asking Jamie to keynote about the solar project. This is huge, she said. You could put Carter Tech on the map. Jamie hesitated. Public speaking wasn't his strength, and the thought of a global stage terrified him. But Sarah was right, this was a chance to cement Daniel's legacy. He spent weeks preparing, practicing with Lena, refining a speech that wove his love for Daniel into the project's mission. Make it personal, Lena said. That's your power. The conference was a whirlwind of bright lights and packed halls. Jamie stood backstage, his palms sweating, Daniel's ring heavy against his chest. When he stepped to the podium, the crowd was a blur, but he pictured Daniel's face, his encouraging nod. I'm not a CEO by training, Jamie began, his voice shaking but clear. I'm here because of love for a man who believed tech could change lives, and for a world that deserves better. He told their story, raw and unfiltered, the cafe, the laughter, the fights, the love that outshone the hate. He tied it to the solar project, showing how Daniel's heart lived in every panel, every powered classroom. The crowd was silent, then erupted in applause. Some standing, others wiping tears. Jamie left the stage trembling, but Sarah was there, hugging him fiercely. You did it, she whispered. The speech went viral, shared across platforms, its message resonating far beyond tech. Letters poured in, kids inspired, couples emboldened, strangers thanking Jamie for showing what love could do. But Claire saw it as a challenge. She contacted a rival company, leaking Carter Tech's plans, hoping to sabotage the project's expansion. The betrayal surfaced when a competitor undercut their pricing, threatening the grant. Jamie and Sarah scrambled, renegotiating deals, reassuring investors. It was a blow, but Jamie refused to break. He called an emergency board meeting, presenting a revised plan that leaned harder on community partnerships, cutting costs without cutting impact. Raj and a few others backed him, and even Evelyn nodded, impressed. That night, Jamie found another of Daniel's letters, this one tucked in a book they'd read together. You're my courage, Jamie. Keep shining. The words carried him through the chaos. A reminder that this fight was bigger than Claire, bigger than the board. It was about proving love could outlast hate. As the project stabilized, Jamie felt a shift. He wasn't just surviving, was leading. Strangers stopped him on the street, thanking him, sharing their own stories of rejection and resilience. One, a young queer kid, said, "You make me feel like I could do anything." Jamie hugged him, tears in his eyes, seeing himself a decade ago. The board's faith grew, but Claire's silence was ominous. Jamie knew she was planning something, her pride too wounded to let go. He braced himself, holding tight to Daniel's ring, to the love that had started it all. Whatever came next, he was ready. Claire's final move came quietly, a venomous whisper disguised as reconciliation. She invited Jamie to dinner, claiming she wanted to bury the hatchet. Wary but hopeful, he agreed, meeting her at a sleek Manhattan restaurant. She was all smiles, her words honeyed, but Jamie saw the edge in her eyes. "I was wrong," she said, sipping wine. "Let's work together. Step back from the CEO role, and I'll support the solar project." It was a trap, and Jamie knew it. She wanted control, not peace. "I'm not stepping back," he said. "Daniel chose me for a reason." Claire's smile tightened, and the conversation ended with a cold nod. Days later, a new scandal broke in. Insider claimed Jamie was mismanaging funds, siphoning money for personal gain. The accusation was baseless, but the timing was brutal, hitting just as Carter Tech pitched to new investors. Jamie fought back, with Tom and Lena at his side. They traced the leak to a disgruntled former employee, someone Claire had quietly paid off. The truth came out, but the damage was done. Investors hesitated, and the board wavered. Evelyn called Jamie in, her tone grave. "You've got one last chance," she said. "Prove the project's viable, or we're done." The pressure was crushing, but Jamie leaned into it. He and Sarah rallied the team, launching a public campaign to showcase the solar project's impact. They shared videos of families, schools, lives changed, real stories, not just numbers. The campaign gained traction, donations pouring in from everyday people, not just corporations. Light the future trended, and Jamie's name became synonymous with resilience, not scandal. Claire's lies unraveled publicly when the employee confessed, implicating her in a recorded statement. The board, fed up, censured her, stripping her influence. She retreated, her pride shattered. But Jamie felt no joy in her fall. He only wanted to move forward, to build what Daniel had dreamed. The solar project's expansion rolled out, powering communities across the Northeast. Jamie visited one, a small town where kids ran up, thanking him for their new computer lab. He knelt, talking to them, his heart full. This was what Daniel had wanted, not just a legacy, but a future. Back in New York, Jamie faced the board one last time, presenting the project's success, revenue up, communities thriving, Carter Tech's name restored. Even Evelyn clapped, a rare smile breaking through. "You've earned your place," she said. It wasn't love, but it was respect, and that was enough. That night, Jamie sat in their penthouse, Daniel's ring in his hand. He felt his husband's presence in every choice, every fight. "We did it," he whispered, tears falling. The city sparkled outside, a testament to their love, unbroken by time or hate. A year after Daniel's death, Jamie stood in the same cemetery, the rain replaced by a soft spring sun. The grave was marked by a simple stone, Daniel's name etched beside Jamie's, a testament to their bond. He placed a red rose, like the one from that first day, and smiled. "We're changing the world, Dan." he said, just like you wanted. Carter Tech had transformed under Jamie's leadership. The solar project was now global, powering villages in Africa, schools in Asia, clinics in South America. Jamie wasn't just a Sohei, was a voice for those who'd been silenced, a beacon for anyone who'd been called less than. His story, their story, inspired countless others, shared in TED Talks, articles, even a documentary. Claire had faded from the spotlight, her bitterness a footnote. Jamie forgave her, not for her sake, but for his own peace. He'd learned to carry grief and joy together, to let love guide him without blinding him. Marcus and Sarah remained his family, their support unwavering. Lena, too, became a friend, her PR genius now focused on amplifying Jamie's mission. One evening, Jamie hosted a gala for Carter Tech's new foundation, funding tech for underserved communities. The room was filled with allies, supporters, and strangers who'd become family through shared dreams. Jamie took the stage, Daniel's ring gleaming under the lights. "This isn't my victory," he said. "It's ours, mine. Daniel's. And everyone who believes love can change the world." The crowd cheered, but Jamie's eyes were on the stars beyond the windows, where he felt Daniel watching. The will had been more than money, it was a challenge, a trust, a call to rise above. Jamie had answered it, not just for Daniel, but for himself, for the kid who'd once felt invisible. As he stepped off the stage, a young man approached, nervous but determined. "I'm queer," he said quietly. "Your story gave me hope." Jamie hugged him, tears in his eyes. "You're enough," he said, "just as you are." That night, alone in the penthouse, Jamie opened Daniel's last letter again. "You're my heart, and that's enough." He smiled, pressing it to his chest. The world had tried to break them, but love had won. It always would.